Now, next to join us is Amiel Handelsman, a Fortune 50 executive coach. In 2018, he interviewed Greg extensively about Murray's work. Since then, he has immersed himself deeply in the work of Ralph Ellison and Albert Murray. He, Greg, and Greg's wonderful partner and wife, Jewel Kinch Thomas, are currently teaching a public course together, Stepping Up, Wrestling with America's Past, Reimagining Its Future, Healing Together. Welcome, Amiel.
Thank you. In today's world, a little bit of clear-eyed sense-making goes a long way. For me, this is the gift of Albert Murray's Omni-American vision, which I'm honored to discuss today. It helps us make sense of the riddles and contradictions of American history, culture, and democracy. My Omni-American journey is one not through time, but through interpretation. For within Murray's courageous critique and stunningly original imagination, I find answers to questions I've wrestled with for years. Let me tell you about 5 of them. 1, does being more Jewish make me less American? As a boy growing up in a Midwestern college town in the 70s and 80s, I went to great pains to hide my cultural identity. Although this partly was a family thing, how my parents felt about being Jewish, and partly internalized anti-Semitism, it also reflected a larger American tension. You can stick with your tribe, or you can give that all up and be an American. Now, Albert Murray says, not so fast. To him, the American character itself is a blend of multiple cultures that mutually influence each other. Not only can I be Jewish and American, but embracing both the particular and the universal is quintessentially American. In fact, the very way I experience being Jewish, what I eat, read, listen to, and laugh about, and even how I speak and walk, is influenced by the mosaic of cultures around me. And that brings me to 2. When a so-called white Jewish guy listens to Earth, Wind, and Fire or Run DMC and really enjoys it, is he, quote, trying to be Black? For years, I would have said yes. No matter how genuine my love of the music, I'd get tripped up by that infamous question. Are you trying to be Black? Then along comes Murray saying to me, you're not being Black or fake. You're doing what Americans do. Borrow and reinterpret each other's cultural forms. Plus, he might say, the people you borrow from themselves have taken others' art and riffed on it. I'm reminded of Run DMC taking Aerosmith's song Walk This Way and making it their own. 3, what's going on when people talk about white America or white culture? For years, these phrases felt off to me, but I didn't quite have an answer. Although history textbooks and popular culture have long excluded and distorted Black American experiences, talk of white America didn't seem to make things better. It's an act of one-upmanship, using blunt exaggeration to sound both morally superior and more real when it is neither. This was clear to me, but I didn't have a response. Once again, Murray provides one. Speaking of white culture isn't just dogmatic, it's false. In Murray's words, it, quote, concedes too much to the self-inflating estimates of others and capitulates too easily to a con game that Black Americans' ancestors never fell for. Here's why, he might say. There is no American history without Black American history. And there's no American culture without Black American culture. What a refreshingly obvious insight. 4, why do so many American Jews, and frankly, many Americans, feel ashamed and only ashamed of Israel, a country I love and have been to? Murray doesn't explore this question, but we can extrapolate an answer from him. The belief that Israel is inherently unjust due to the condition of Palestinians is different in content, but similar in worldview to the belief, increasingly common these days, that America is irredeemably racist. Both storylines contain important truths, yet are reductionistic and dehumanizing to all parties. So in one tale, Black Americans are only victims of history, white folks are only bad, and that's it. Harriet Tubman, never heard of her. Abraham Joshua Heschel, who's that? So in the other tale, Palestinians are only victims, the Israeli government is only bad, and again, that's it. The 99,000 other things happening in the daily lives of Israelis and Palestinians don't exist. And the conflicted feelings that most Israelis have about the occupation and this simplistic critique of Israel, they don't matter either. Finally, this one I've wondered about a lot. Why do white nationalists keep coming back, or some might say, have never really gone away? The answers are complex, but Murray nails it when he points a finger at racial essentialism. White Southerners used the false notion of biological race to justify slavery. The Nazis borrowed this to justify the persecution of Jews that culminated in the Holocaust. White nationalists continue to use this false notion today, as do many anti-racists. If we want to combat racism and anti-Semitism together, we need to combat the very idea that there are Black, white, and Jewish genetic codes, which scientists will tell us just don't exist. So when someone treats me poorly, even brutally, based on how I look or sound, I have a choice. I could accept their premise of racial essentialism, yet argue all races are equal, or knock that wickedly false idea out with a 1-2 punch. Murray says, knock it out. Because once you realize race is a fallacy, racism and anti-Semitism don't stand a chance. As I said, a bit of clear-eyed sense-making goes a long way. That's the gift of Albert Murray's Omni-American vision.